Hi everybody, welcome to Russian Statistic Update. In this video we will explore Russian sanctioned oil, natural gas and petroleum product markets. Russia is trading with oil, natural gas and petroleum products despite the Western sanctions. Russian crude oil, natural gas and petroleum products have been smuggled to countries that don't respect Western sanctions, China and India. If these countries have access to some other suppliers, like Iran and Venezuela for instance, Russia can find itself without crude oil, natural gas and petroleum products revenues, and we all know what it means. End of the threat from Russia to Ukraine and Europe. For that to be achieved, sanctions must be lifted from Iran and Venezuela, and some CIS countries must have some initiative to stop trading with Russia. Countries like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Mongolia, Serbia and the like, pragmatic countries. According to OPEC annual report, world crude oil production increased from 68,828,000 barrels a day in 2020 to 72,584,000 barrels a day in 2024. But Russian crude oil production decreased from 9,409,000 barrels a day in 2020 to 9,193,000 barrels a day in 2024. So, world crude oil production increased 5% and Russian crude oil production decreased 2% from 2020 to 2024. World crude oil export followed crude oil production and increased from 40,703,000 barrels a day in 2020 to 43,239,000 barrels a day in 2024, the 6% increase from 2020 to 2024. But Russian exports decreased from 4,670,000 barrels a day in 2020 to 4,524,000 barrels a day in 2024, the 2% decrease from 2020 to 2024. Yes, somehow low when we take into account sanctions, but that is what it is. They found new buyers, India and China. And now let's take a look at a more expensive product, petroleum products, diesel, gasoline, jet fuel and alike refined products that seller can sell from the higher prices and make a higher profits. World petroleum products production increased from 85,589,000 barrels a day in 2020 to 93,631,000 barrels a day in 2024, the 9% increase from 2020 to 2024. But Russian petroleum products production decreased from 5,920,000 barrels a day in 2020 to 5,844,000 barrels a day in 2024. That is 1% decrease from 2020 to 2024. World petroleum products exports increased from 27,898,000 barrels a day in 2020 to 41,785,000 barrels a day in 2024, the 14% increase from 2020 to 2024. But Russian petroleum product export decreased from 2,470,000 barrels a day in 2020 to 2,136,000 barrels a day in 2024, the 12% decrease from 2020 to 2024. That is 26% compared to trend. That is almost certainly because of Ukrainian kinetic sanctions like FPV drones and attached group partisan actions inside Russia, and European change in suppliers' portfolio. And now let's look at natural gas global market. World natural gas production increased from 4,017 cubic meters in 2020 to 4,288 cubic meters in 2024, the 7% increase from 2020 to 2024. Russian natural gas production decreased from 655 651,400 million cubic meters in 2020 to 644,213 million cubic meters in 2024, the 1% decrease from 2020 to 2024. World natural gas export decreased from 1,418 cubic meters in 2020 to 1,356 cubic meters in 2024, or 4% decrease from 2020 to 2024. This trend can be because of three factors: warm winters, full world storages that countries have filled in 2022, and due to higher share of renewable energy in energy mix of world energy demand. But Russian export decreased more than the world average. Russian natural gas export decreased from 236,880 million cubic meters in 2020 to 158,970 million cubic meters in 2024. That is 33% decrease from 2020 to 2024. That is because of European change in suppliers' portfolio. Interesting fact: Russian natural gas production decreased by 1% and exports decreased by 33%. So where is the rest? They officially increased domestic demand from 423,110 million cubic meters in 2020 to 496,243 million cubic meters. That is 73,133 million cubic meters in 2020, or by 17% from 2020 to 2024. So, I think something is fishy here. Or they are false reporting on production, or some natural gas is lost in bad infrastructure, or stored in LNG storages, or burnt because of lower export demand for Russian natural gas. Put your comments down below. I would like to hear from you. See you soon. Bye.